Yo, what is up, everybody? Let's go back again. Another story from the collection titled The Shadow Dies Loudly, written by T.L. Oberhu. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to the author. Like, comment, subscribe. Henry the Great. Henry never really had friends. No one ever really needed him. His eyes were aimed at the little plastic bag that he held onto with fearful anticipation. These little brown and green pieces of fungus would help him in ways that he wouldn't be able to comprehend. That's what Devin told him anyway. Devin, Sid, and Nick all stared at the scared little Henry, giving each other knowing glances and smirks. So, are you gonna hang on to those all day? Gonna share? I don't know. Would be cool if we got to take them too, little Henry. Easy, Nick. The boy is unsure. Alas, he needs to decide to join us on a psychonautical odyssey, unlike anything else in the young squire's life. Devin took one last hit of the roach he was milking for all it was worth. Doth the boy join the men on the crusade of consciousness? Or doth he stay a little virgin faggot, too intimidated to speak on the fair sex without stuttering like a retard? Henry was already unsure, both of doing this and not doing this. A peculiar paradox. Does he explore the parts of his mind that led him being wherever he was? A scared little boy trapped in an 18-year-old's body? A loser spurg with zero social awareness or skills? A little virgin faggot? Or does he continue being himself, albeit with no risk of latent mental disorders, rising and making his life worse beyond comprehension? It was a decision out of classic literature. Try to become a man and risk going insane, or live forever as a meek little creature. He looked at his fellow journeymen, the cool kids. They killed the little boy so the men inside could live. They've done this, or at least similar journeys before, and were gracious to allow Henry to join them on another quest. One that would allow Henry's boy to die and Henry's man to emerge. Devin, the fearless leader who conquered everything thrown at him. The king of every clique simultaneously. The ultimate quarterback, theater kid, honor student, and teenage heartthrob. Nick, the badass rogue who wasn't afraid of anyone. Not teachers or principals or cops. Never afraid to speak his mind or do what he wanted. Sid, the monk of silence. Never complaining or raising concern. A true Zen master who could just be sitting or standing in complete silence forever. All with a smirk that communicated that he knew more than he allowed you to know. All of them were so much more developed as people that alone was intimidating to Henry. Now, he was expected to take a psychedelic unknown to everyone in the party and not to be afraid. Henry sighed and agreed to the plans. The crew entered Devin's family cabin. It was smaller than Henry expected. With all the money Devin seemed to flaunt, Henry expected the cabin to be bigger than his own house. Something out of American pastoral novel. They sat in a circle and looked at each other for an amount of time unknown to Henry. He was uncomfortable, but he hid it well. Devin opened the bag and divided the mushrooms evenly amongst himself and the other three. They all held the little pile in their hands, eager to begin. All right, on three. 1, 2, 3. They waited. Nick was the first to break the silence. Where'd you get these again? My cousin. He knows some deep black market shit. Got him online. The silence returned. The fungus was making its own journey through all their bloodstreams. In each boy's body, the fungus was studying them, inspecting the inner workings of each of them, connecting with neurons and what could only be described as downloading information that would be vital to its mission. In one boy's body, the fungal spores realized something. This was objectively useless. Therefore, he needed to be eliminated. Sid sat there in silence, with that same smirk on his face. He started giggling. The other boys started giggling at Sid. Then Sid started laughing. Then roaring with laughter. Sid became hysterical, tears streaming down his face as he howled. His sound echoed throughout the small square cabin, which was making the others uneasy. Then, the wall behind Sid was painted red, with small pink chunks of flesh and brain complement crimson ichor. Every memory and experience that Sid ever had left his body was now decorating the east wall of the rather plain little cabin. Then that thought entered Devin's mind, that his cabin was plain, his life was plain. Everything he did, school, theater, sports, the grades, the girls, was all in the name to let everybody know he existed. That he wasn't the son of a man who had a shit job, a shit life, and some rather good luck inheriting everything he earned. What would be left for Devin? His family would blow through that inheritance, leaving him with nothing but the memory of being on top during a small, rather unimportant 4 years of his miserable life. Devin wept big, ugly tears, wailing and lamenting on his falsehood of a life. Nick started to think about how much of a pussy Devin was being. Unlike himself, who was tough as nails and hardened, mainly because of his own family. Like his mother, whose days consisted of mobile games and junk food. Like his father, whose days consisted of working and drinking and taking his frustration out on everyone. Like his sister, who fucked everything that moved, including her father. Like his brother, who made a cocktail out of his prescription and escaped bullshit life. Nick saw all of them in the cabin, his whole family, every one of his teachers and school therapists, every kid he beat the shit out of, every neighbor whose house he vandalized. All of them were gathered in the corner of the cabin, smiling at Nick. Then they rushed him. Nick screamed as the memories and concepts of his mind did physical damage. Henry looked at the bruises and gashes that formed on Nick's body as he writhed on the floor. Pretty pathetic, isn't it? Henry was confused. Who is this? It's us, the innocent little drugs you just took. Didn't you know where they came from? Oh yeah, that's right. Devin just said online. like your primitive technology gave birth to us. Now, that's hilarious. Are you gonna hurt me? Oh no. You, Henry, are special. You aren't like these folks. You do realize they invited you to do this so they can fuck with you, right? They think you're a freak. They wanted to see an autistic retard freak out. But they don't see what we see, Henry. They see you as an outcast. We see you as a prime candidate, an agent that furthers our goal. What's your goal? Domination, of course. Our creators put a lot of time into us and sent us on a very long journey, all in order to make things right for them. All for people like you. How about we give you some new toys to play with? New toys that will help our creators and you, our newest ally. Henry stood up. He stood more proud than he ever has before. His mind was working differently now, in a new paradigm, unlike anyone else as before. Except for a few others like him. It wasn't that he could hear their thoughts, but more he could feel them. There were 144,000 others that were like him and were going through the same thing because he was currently. After all, this new drug wasn't so unknown and underground like Devin thought it was. The creators made sure of that. All 144,000 communicated centuries of information and ideas in roughly 3 minutes. Now, they all had an objective. They were cast aside by their own race. So they all unanimously decided to help a different one. Henry inspected his arms and commanded his new tendrils to emerge from his skin. He penetrated Nick's skull and rearranged his neural structure. Nick never listened to anybody. However, this wasn't entirely his fault. Nick spared his life, but made Nick understand both the old Henry and the new one. Nick and Henry both stood tall and proud. Henry looked at the pieces of Sid and absorbed the organic matter. Sid was still in those pieces. He wasn't allowed to die right now. So Henry took Sid, made him to a sort of dog collar. A weeping Devin looked at the two monsters before him. He stopped weeping. Henry put the dog collar on Devin. Now, Devin was acting like a good dog, receptive of Henry's commands, with Sid acting like an arbiter between the two. The four men left the cabin with Henry at the helm. The four men began their journey back to civilization. The 144,000 would do the same in their own towns throughout the world. Henry never really had friends, but now he did. Very powerful friends that were on their way. They just needed Henry. Someone finally needed Henry, so he smiled and led his new friends on a new quest. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our story.